Israel-Palestinian question in Eretz Yisrael. As you know, I've spoken out publicly when I think the administration has been pushing in the wrong direction. I think I was the only Democrat to do that. I think it has had an effect. I think that the basic strategy should be, and this is going to relate to point number 3, the Palestinian people still don't believe in a Jewish state, in a two-state solution. More do than before, but a majority still do not. Their fundamental view is the Europeans treated the Jews badly and gave them our land. This is Palestinian thinking. As recompense, they don't believe in the Torah, they don't believe in King David, so they don't think it's our land, it was them. And they think the Europeans gave it to the Jews, who they regard as Western, we're all Western, by force. So you have to force them to say Israel's here to stay. The contrast with Gaza is glaring. And that's why the boycott of Gaza, to me, has another purpose. Obviously, the first purpose is to prevent Hamas from getting weapons by which it will use to hurt Israel. But the second is actually to show the Palestinians that when there's some moderation and cooperation, they can have an economic advancement. When there's total war against Israel, which Hamas wages, they're going to get nowhere. And to me, since the Palestinians in Gaza elected Hamas, well, certainly there should be humanitarian aid, people not starving to death, to strangle them economically until they see that that's not the way to go. Makes sense. So I think the boycott is important for bringing about peace in the Middle East, actually. To show the Palestinians that.
All right, so let's break that down. First, he says the Palestinian people still don't believe in the Jewish state in a two-state solution. First of all, that's empirically not true. We have significant polling on this, and every poll has shown it. The last poll was 74% of the Palestinian people do believe in a two-state solution. Here's who doesn't believe in a two-state solution: Israel. Now, I know a lot of Israelis, so what are you talking about? Of course we do. Really? Well, there's an easy way to do it. Why don't you create two states? The Palestinians don't have a choice. You have a choice. You can create it instantly. You can say, boom, we have two states. Oh, no, we can't because they'll attack us. Blah, blah, blah. No, that's very, very interesting, okay? You might be right about that, and the negotiations might come up with something else. But it's a fact that the government of Israel does not believe in a two-state solution because they have not created two states. They have one state where they occupy the Palestinians, okay? That's a fact. I know you find it really inconvenient. You know what? Here's one way to change it, okay? Stop occupying the Palestinians. I know. Crazy. Okay. Now, point number 2 is he says, look, they don't even believe in the Torah or David. Yeah, that's because they're Muslim and not Jewish. I mean, can you imagine if a Muslim congressman like Keith Ellison came out and said, the problem with Israel is they don't believe in Muhammad. And these Jews, they don't even believe in Allah. My guess is he would be in significant trouble. But Schumer says it, who cares? I mean, look, it just happened now, so let's see what the reaction is. I mean, Helen Thomas got fired, so I'm sure Chuck Schumer will have similar consequences, right? Let's see what happens. All right, now, here's the part that's really interesting. Towards the end there, he says, and to me, since the Palestinians in Gaza elected Hamas, while certainly there should be humanitarian aid and people not starving to death, is he not merciful, by the way? Is he not merciful? All right, we don't let them starve to death, but to, quote, to strangle them economically until they see that that's not the way to go makes sense. So, what if Hamas had said, hey, listen, the people of Israel voted for the right-wing warmonger Netanyahu, so it makes sense to strangle them. Goddamn terrorists, right? Right? Okay? No, but if you're strangling Palestinians, well, what can you do? They had it coming. Because, as Schumer explained in that whole speech, you have to beat them down with force, and you have to strangle them economically, not to the point that they're dead, but close. Here's what I'm tired of. Oh, Hamas or the Palestinians don't recognize Israel's right to exist. First of all, it's nonsense. Hamas even told Jimmy Carter when he was there that they would get beyond that and they would recognize it. They said, no, you have to give it to us first. Well, that's the negotiation. Well, they don't like us and they don't want us to exist. Yes, they're your enemy. You don't get to tell your enemy, no, here's our negotiations. First, you concede everything to me. Then I think about giving you something I've never given you for 40 years and seem to have no inclination of giving it to you, right? That's not how it works. Second of all, who cares what Hamas thinks Israel's right to exist around? Israel actually exists, and there's not a damn thing Hamas can do about it, okay? And they know that, and everybody knows that, right? Here's what doesn't exist: Palestine. So you're talking about right to exist. We're having a conversation about right to exist. Their state doesn't exist, and why doesn't it have a right to exist? Because the Israeli government insists upon it. So as soon as the Israeli government says the Palestinians have a right to exist and here's their state, boom, it exists, well then I'm sure the Palestinian people will turn around and say Israel has a right to exist. Now what's my opinion on it? My opinion is, of course both states should exist. But there might be some crazy people, and they might be inside Hamas, and they might be angry, and they might be prone to violence, who if you gave them a button and said, would you get rid of Israel? My guess is a lot of them would press that button. But they don't have that button, okay? Whereas Israel does have that button. They get to say, and they've said for 40 years, you don't get to exist, while complaining that in some charter somewhere, they said something about how we don't have the right to exist. Your actions are, in that sense, in that issue, 10 times worse. But they say, no, you don't understand, Cenk, because Hamas is a terrorist. As long as they're terrorists, then of course you can do anything you like to them. You can strangle them, and they don't even believe in David or the Torah. Of course you can do whatever you want to them. And they don't get any rights. Now Israel, though, to peaceful, nonviolent protesters that are protesting at the wall that they're building, shoot people, right? And sometimes they kill them. Now, look, I've been telling the Palestinians for how many years now? On this show, since the beginning of my career, please, for the love of God, be peaceful. Okay, be in the right. Be in the right, right? So they're peacefully demonstrating for the wall in the West Bank, and they get shot to death. Now, but that's not terrorism. No. With people we don't like, our enemies, we get to call terrorists. The powerless, we get to call terrorists. But if you're powerful and you execute people, whether it's by the wall or on a checkpoint, or because you invaded Gaza, or it's on a flotilla, none of that counts as terrorism. No, the powerful that are states cannot do terrorism. No, they can only blame others for it, and they can deny your right to exist and then complain that you don't recognize their right to exist. All that hypocrisy is totally okay, because why? Senators like Chuck Schumer go and tell, audiences like this, and represent the United States of America and saying, don't worry, man, the U.S. has Israel's back as it strangles the Palestinian people. And that's the kind of force they understand. But if they'd use force, well, then they're terrorists. So as you blockade them, as you deny them food, as you deny them medicine, as you deny them statehood, as you deny them sometimes their very life, that is not terrorism. That's really A-OK, because you're our democratic ally in the Middle East. No. Look, somebody asked me this morning, hey, what if you're Israel, right, and you did all these things and they still do the terrorism, right? Well, then I'm 100% on your side. But you got to get in the right. Like with the Turkish government, right? The Kurds did terrorism against the Turks, right? So what? That's the end of the question, right? Terrorism, blah, 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 right? No, but that's not the end of the question. Why did they do it? Part of the reason was because the Turkish government in the past didn't allow them to speak their language, crushed their culture, didn't allow them to sing in Kurdish. Okay, so now since they did terrorism, we're supposed to forget all of their grievances as if they don't exist. No, that's not right. They shouldn't do terrorism, and you should allow them to speak their language. Okay, now the Turkish government does allow them to speak their language. Okay, now once you got on the right, okay, then I'm on your side. Then they shouldn't blow you up anymore. Okay, Israel, what I'm telling you is for your own good, for your own morality, for your own existence, for everything, you've got to be the good guys. And maybe I'm foolish and naive, but I still think you can be. I think that there is a deep morality in the Jewish faith. But you got to get there, man. You got to be in the right. And right now you are nowhere near in the right. And this kind of talk by Schumer doesn't help anybody.